Welcome to Thinking Out Loud, conversations for the Ignite Her Collective. I'm Gabrielle, and around here, we don't chase motivation, we build ignition. This is for the women who've done everything right, the business, the family, the goals, but still feel like something's missing. In this space, we talk about what comes after success, the moments where your fire starts to flicker, and the identity work that reignites it. Because you don't need more pep talks or productivity hacks, you need safety, rhythm, and belonging that actually lasts. So take a breath, settle in, and let's think out loud together. Hello and welcome to another episode of Thinking Out Loud, conversations for the Ignite Her Collective. And I'm super excited to not be here on my own this time and having my first ever guest on my podcast, Lauren Short, who is the owner of Heart of the Hunter. Lauren is, well, she's a number of things, but she is a meditation therapist, a yoga teacher, Reiki healer, and holistic coach. And she's really devoted to low-tox living and heart-led wellness. As a earth-rooted new mama, she supports slow, rhythm-led living and deeper connection with nature and self. And she also hosts monthly new moon circles where women can gather to reflect, reset, and set intentions aligned with the lunar cycle. I can attest to those. I've attended one and they are a beautiful connection and community for women. So welcome, Lauren. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Gabby. It's such an honour to be here, especially your first guest on your podcast. So I'm really honoured to be here. Thank you.
Super exciting. So I want to have this conversation around instinct, identity shifts, and the transformation that happens when life changes us. Particularly for you, Lauren, becoming a mother later in life and how that leadership and purpose and that sort of self-trust and internal authority, which I like to talk about. So I'd love to start with the season of life that you're currently in right now. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but what season of life are you in right now?
The season of life that I am in now is new motherhood. So I have a beautiful little baby girl who's nearly 10 months old, and I am turning 42 in June. So first time mum, fell pregnant at 40, had Ciora when I was 41. So a massive change for both my partner and I, being older parents. And with age comes wisdom. And I know that everything happens in divine timing. 5 years ago, I had a miscarriage and I know it wasn't the right timing. I completely changed my life and went down the path, which led me to having, a natural pregnancy, like falling pregnant naturally and leading that healthy, holistic lifestyle. So new mamahood has been a massive change for me, being an older mum and just adapting to this new lifestyle. And I think with the field of work that I do, it really helped me have the tools and during the postpartum period, just really tapping into those tools that I had to help support me. And just still starting to realize who I am and bring back little bits of glimmers of for myself, because you really do devote that time to being a new mom. And it's such a beautiful journey, but it's challenges pop up that you don't even expect that are going to happen. So it's been a real change for us, but in a beautiful way.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story with us. So how has becoming a mother changed the rhythm of what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I had set my business up, could have been about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's just been a gradual process. So with my day-to-day life, my partner and I caretake a vineyard, so there has been some isolation. He had 6 months off work, which was, not many dads can do that, but being older parents and our first time, he was in a position where he could take the time off. So most fathers would go back to work a lot earlier. So I didn't actually get that time with Ciora by myself. So when he went back to work at 6 months, it was like around that mark where she was 6 months old and I was starting to find my feet as a new mum on my own. So that transition for the three of us was difficult because we'd been used to being a family of three. So it was like going to appointments, and Ciora and I have had osteo work, both of us, since birth as well, and just going to appointments on your own and just navigating life, getting the pram out of the back of the car. And that's a challenge in itself for the first time. And gosh, you need so much strength when you're doing that, getting the carrier out, and it takes time. And also developing that confidence. I know that for myself, I had a lot of birth trauma, and I've been doing work through the Gidget Foundation since day dot to help support me through the birth trauma. So with my own birth, it was very traumatic for my mum, and I realised until doing some coaching through neurotransformation coaching with Luke Hawkins, and also I had another coach as well, a lady called Sylvia, and through that I actually realised that I was holding on to some birth trauma for why I was struggling to fall pregnant. And once I released that, it was a huge shift for me. Pretty much fell pregnant straight away. So
Wow.
I'm
That's
doing the
really
work
interesting,
around
isn't it?
birth trauma,
Yeah.
yes, now, so I don't have to keep repeating it for when Siora grows up. So I'm doing that work now, and I can see the growth because I went to a cesarean healing circle,
Yep.
and there was a lot of other women there, and we all had to go around and share our story. And when that happened, I felt that I was in a position where I could speak of it in a positive way, and to, our story shapes how we're going to help other women in the future. So I could see the growth there, and it's just been nice. I think being a 41-year-old mum, my values have changed over the years, being a holistic practitioner. So there's not many people that follow the same path, so it can be quite lonely sometimes. But then also I'm also attracting new women that are wanting to learn different ways, and being strong and confident in the way they're bringing up their children and having a natural holistic way of doing that. So it's been a journey, and it's been a bit lonely too, but it's lovely to have people like you in your corner that have been through similar experiences. And I loved listening to your podcast, and everything that you have said and mentioned has been something that I really resonate with.
Thank you. Yeah. And it can be lonely, especially I had my children during COVID period, and you're running a business and you're really just sort of secluded from society, and it takes a while to get that confidence back up again. So the fact that you've been able to take something that was both traumatic for your mother and then traumatic for you, but then turn that into a positive and kind of like a catalyst then moving forward to ensure that the cycle is going to be broken for your daughter, and then use that as well to help other women. That's amazing, and it must feel so rewarding for you.
It really has. And I feel like there's a lot of women, and I know I've had the tools in my toolbox, but there's a lot of women that don't have the toolbox, and I really worry for them. And I feel like everything that's happened to me with the journey, I had breastfeeding issues, also had the birth trauma around the hospital and the system.
Yeah.
I just feel like this has all happened in order for me to help other women. And I do plan to run mothers circles. There's quite a few different practitioners that helped me along the way. I had a beautiful lady I used to work with at the wellness retreat, and I'll talk about that a bit later. And she used to work at a hospital with babies, and she does first aid courses, baby massage, and she's a postpartum doula. So she came here one day and she just put me in contact with all the right people, lactation consultants. I hadn't even heard of all these different titles. And there's so many beautiful women out there to support you. And you think about back in the day when tribes came together, it wasn't just the one woman looking after the baby. It takes a village. So there's so many people to support you. And I do feel that it was a bit of a lonely journey because my family, it was during winter. A lot of people had colds and flus, and you don't come around a newborn baby with not being well. And Adrian's parents live in Sydney, and it just was a very lonely period. And I think sometimes when that happens, these things lead you to create something for women that is something to nurture them. And I just remember certain messages from friends. I even had somebody send me through like fruit and vegetables, like ready-made meals, all these things that you think, gosh, I would have like that kind of thing was so more valuable than items, like just things that you appreciate when you're tired and you just got no energy, and little things like that you remember.
Absolutely. And I think both of us, being like, I had my youngest at 43, so being an older mum, but my concern is for the younger women who really don't have that much life experience, and they're sort of navigating this whole process. And sometimes it can be, if you don't have that voice to stand up for yourself or ask or trust your gut instinct, and you may not necessarily have that community or village of women around you that have been through it, like, how are they coping? And it just sort of seems to be like this snowball effect, then raising their children and not having that support around them, and where do they end up, and what does that look like for them and their children?
So true. Oh my goodness. I look back when I was in my 20s, I went to London for myself for the first time and I just had a different mindset. So, I mean, not saying that all 20-year-olds, are
Yeah,
immature, and there's some beautiful, it's just age is just a number. It is your life experience and how you've been brought up and everything. But yeah, I'm the same. I do worry about the younger generation because you are shaping young people, and it's a big thing to have children. And
yeah,
the other thing I wanted to say that I found that I am still learning around financial independence for women as well, like having to rely on your partner.
yeah. It's a big
I
one.
am so grateful. So 6 years ago, I started network marketing through Young Living, and at that point, I didn't realize the work I was doing was going to be helping me, all this time later, to be getting an income, on top of, for the work I'm doing. And also,
Yeah,
when you're a new mom, you don't have the time to go out and work for somebody, and also to teach classes. So the network marketing has been really great in the sense that I'm able to do it in my own time when Sierra's sleeping or if her dad has
absolutely.
her.
Yeah,
So the importance of financial independence for women is so important. And I'm really grateful I sort of thought about different avenues at that point. And I know that you'll resonate with this as well.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, the universe has a plan, but, not having that as an option and having to, I know some women have to go back to work really quickly, and the thought of sending little babies to daycare, and I know women have to do that. It's the only option that they have, but it's just so heartbreaking. And I just want to get the message out and creating this community that there are other options for women to support themselves, so that they don't have to do that.
So true.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So, what do you think has surprised you the most in this chapter of your life?
Oh, that's a good question. Surprise. I think sometimes it can be so challenging with putting in the effect of no sleep, hormonal shifts,
Mm,
your body's healing, and everything else in the mix of the identity shift, and you just keep going. You keep showing up for your baby.
yeah.
And there's been some times when I'm so tired, and I always just, and this will be any mum, you'll find a way to come through to care for your baby and give them the love that they need. And that's when I've tapped into, the tools I have. So if I'm tired, I'll go and like, I'll say to my partner, I just need to have some time to myself. And I think being an older and wiser mum is knowing that you do need a break and
Yeah.
having the courage to ask for it, and knowing that it's crucial that you
It's
have rest
okay
as
though.
well.
You're not a
It's
failure as a
okay.
mum to take that
No,
time.
that's
Yeah.
right. And I know I'm not my best self when I'm not resting. So meditation, so powerful. Half an hour of yoga nidra is equivalent to 3 hours sleep. So there's a lot of apps out there, Insight Timer. Just go and listen to a meditation. You can elevate your legs, put a bolster on there, under there. Just having the time out, or even making yourself a cup of tea and going for a walk. We're lucky here on the vineyard. I often take Sior around the vineyard in the carrier. The
Yeah.
carrier has been the best thing. I got it a little bit later when she was born, maybe 3 or 4 months. But it's just so great because you think about the baby being close to your heart,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's like a little kangaroo. We have kangaroos on the vineyard. So in the pouch, the baby is there. They're regulated. If your nervous system is regulated, the baby is going to be regulated as well. So yeah, I didn't know that you could be so tired and you just keep going. You just
Yeah.
keep going. And like I said, all those things, the body healing, the hormonal shift, just
Yeah.
emotions, it's a lot.
It's a
So
lot.
that,
And you don't get warned about that, do you? Like,
no, no, definitely not. No. I just never thought it would be possible to be going through so much, but then you're still caring for this new human that's come into your life.
yeah.
And that's probably the thing that I thought of the most, that no one can prepare you for that. But it's a beautiful thing to see, baby is like Sierra's nearly 10 months now, and just how much he's grown. And you think, wow, like when you nurture and love something, they're just going to keep
Yeah.
growing and thriving. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Beautiful. And so before this chapter, how would you say that you defined yourself? Like what was driving you in the work that you do with Heart of the Hunter?
Wow. Well, I used to work in corporate management for law firms in Sydney and London, and I did that for
What a
over 10
shift.
years. What a shift. And I got to
Yeah.
the top and I realized it was a little bit soul destroying. Like I had some beautiful people, managed some lovely people, great companies that I did a lot of volunteer work through, but it just was not making my heart sing. So I always wanted to do something different. And I actually moved back to the Hunter with my partner. We moved back in a converted coach home. So we packed up our life in Sydney. And then at the time I was living in Sydney, I was studying a PT course, but I always had full-time work. So it was really hard to complete.
Yeah.
So when we moved back here, COVID shifted. And the reason why we moved back to the Hunter Valley is because my help had dementia. He's now passed. It's been 2 years since he's passed. And he was a role model in my life. So he taught me how to drive. He inspired me to go to London. And being the eldest granddaughter, I just had a really close bond with my grandparents. So we moved back to the Hunter and COVID hit. So we didn't expect that. I struggled to get any kind of corporate credit management role. So I did wedding coordinating. And that was a really beautiful change. It was very refreshing with photographers and cake decorators and different things like that. So while I
You
was
sort of had the catalyst was your grandfather to move back, but you were still, there was something that was like, this is not working. I'm not happy. Like, because I think that's one of the big things that I really want to sort of explore and talk about with other women is this inner knowing that something's not right. But, you just continue and it becomes the normal, the standard, and then you just deal with it and live with it. And you don't end up making that change to whatever it is that's going to make you happy or more fulfilled in life. So I think that's really brave that you took that step. You didn't have a job to go to because that's scary, and then to have your partner support that as well. So did he have work to start when he moved back? Yeah.
No, we both
Okay.
didn't. He actually ended up working for, did a little bit of work where I was, and then he got another job for another vineyard where he was like a caretaker for quite a lot of properties and did a lot of maintenance work. And we actually ended up caretaking vineyards and living on vineyards during COVID. So, most people were locked up in their houses where we were caretaking these beautiful vineyards with pools and tennis courts and living in a bus. It was just a really unusual kind of time. And the only people we were seeing was the business owners who were coming to work, and we got to know a lot of those. And while I was there, most people were, well, not most people, but some people were choosing to use their time differently. Whereas I invested my time in a 6-week intensive certificate for a new small business. So every morning I would get up at 9 o'clock on these calls because you had to be present, had to have your video on. And I was doing this course, and it actually led into doing a niece program through the government where I was mentored for 12 months. And this is when Heart of the Hunter started. While I was working as a wedding coordinator, I was doing some casual work as in a gym, a local gym, and that's where I ended up finishing my certificate and was mentored through a beautiful lady who dealt with a lot of women going through menopause and injuries and things. So I was mentored by her, a lovely lady called Cheryl. And then while I was there, I ended up finishing that. And my first opportunity was opening up a boot camp in Singleton through a not-for-profit charity to help the community. So it was free for them to come. I did boxing and circuit training. So believe it or not, boxing is a form of meditation if you look at the science behind that. So I set that up from scratch. I had no people that came right through to help creating a whole camp. So I did that.
And that in itself is really scary, right?
Exactly, definitely. And
I know what that feels like.
Yeah, you've got to start from somewhere, and it's having the courage to keep going and keep showing up, and then eventually the people come. And then I also worked in a women's gym in Singleton as well, so that was really great exposure. But I found that the work that I was doing was very holistic, my view on health and wellness. The PT and the fitness was great, but I just felt that I was drawn to other things. So after working in those places, it was still during COVID, so I remember going for the interview. I went for an interview at a beautiful wellness retreat in Colburn called Alicia. And at that time, I had taken on a role as a wellness and spa coordinator. So perfect opportunity. So while I was there, I then studied meditation therapy, and then I went on to do my yoga teacher training. And my first opportunity was working with one of the largest accounting firms in Australia. and they booked out the retreat for 6 weeks. So every morning I would get up and teach them meditation. So a lot of entrepreneurs that had never had any experience with meditation, and that's where I got my experience. And the following year, they asked me to do meditation and yoga. So that was 2 years in a row.
So
that I was
obviously
having
the feedback was great, or accepting it for, you know, sometimes it can be a bit, if people haven't done it before, especially accountants, just
yeah,
they're probably
exactly.
like a tough crowd.
That's right. Yeah. So it was really nice to get feedback from people saying, look, I really struggled with it. And there's so many different forms of meditation. And it's about finding what works for the individual.
Yeah.
And also, while I was there, I ended up finishing the roles in the spa and the wellness center, but it was great experience. I then was asked to work on the programs team, where I actually specifically taught yoga and meditation. And then I was asked to do wellness consulting. So when people came to the retreat, and this retreat is really beautiful, when you come, there's no alcohol, no phones, it's a full clear, proper wellness. So when people came, I would take them into a meeting room and I would chat to them about what was going on, whether it was stress, health concerns, illnesses, whatever they were going through, life changes. And I would work with them to recommend different programs, classes, naturopaths, whatever it is that they needed to put into their stay. And then I was getting to meet these people, which were, I really love this aspect of it. And also teaching the yoga meditation, did a lot of yoga nidras. And I wasn't specifically for PTing, but when I started getting back into PTing as well, and I noticed that my whole teaching and PTing was so different to when before I was a yoga and meditation teacher, because I was incorporating the breath work and the yoga into it as well. And I just found a lot of people were saying, look, that did not feel like a workout. That was beautiful. So it was really nice to get that feedback. And
beautiful.
being
And do you
there
think that sort of fed what you added to your tool belt, I guess, like, you know, those kind of opportunities, and it just seemed to
that's right.
grow
Yeah,
your
so
skill
true.
base? Yeah.
Definitely. And while I was there, I was noticing that being a wellness retreat, there was no low tox education. And how I came about, so I'm brand partner for Young Living Australia, and I started learning about reducing the chemical load in the home during COVID. And that's where I got into essential oils, and they help with the nervous system. And I just started learning about them, and I started doing workshops to show women how to reduce the chemical load in the home, and making perfume rollers opposed to ones that are bought from the store. And I started doing workshops at Alicia, educating people around reducing the chemical load in the home. So, that was something that was new, and a lot of people are just not aware.
Yeah, I still don't think it has enough awareness around what the causes and, you know, what it can do to the body, especially in our children, and the correlation between such an increase in different diagnoses and the increase in those kind of chemicals in the home. Like it's huge. And I still think it's got a massive stigma, you know, like the hippie or the alternative living kind of views attached to it. But, you know, there's a lot of research behind it now, isn't there?
So true, definitely. And that retreat was where I gained some amazing experience, and also met so many different other holistic practitioners who I can gratefully call friends. And it was just a really great path to set me up for my experience. And I went on to do a lot of community-based work. And I think retreats are beautiful, but not everyone can afford to go to retreats. So I have done a lot of government grants. I used to teach yoga for drug and alcohol addiction. Again, I would use the aromatherapy by diffusing in the classes. I also ran a wellness program in Broke through flood relief, and I taught meditation, yoga, kids mindfulness and games. And I've done a lot of pop-up opportunities for other retreats for yoga and meditation. I've done stress management workshops for big organizations, I think, having that corporate background. But the thing that's changed my life is going low tox. And it's not just the woman as well, it's the partner. They need to be on board with it. And I think a lot of people think it's just the woman, but being low tox for the both of us for 5 years, we have a beautiful, healthy baby now. And I just feel like there's more people, not just women, but men, need to be aware of the environmental toxins in our home and what we're putting on our bodies.
Absolutely. So just on that, so how has becoming a mum in your 40s like really reshaped how you see life and your work that you're doing?
You could be a 20-year-old and be unhealthy and not look after yourself. I believe age is just a number.
Yeah.
If you do the work to look after yourself and really set yourself up, because the work needs to be done. Not everyone is aware of this, but prior to falling pregnant. So I feel like that's a big area that people need to work on. If you're going to fall pregnant, unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Sometimes you just fall pregnant. But if you have
Yeah.
the opportunity to be aware of reducing your cleaners, not burning candles, because they can
Yeah.
have toxic ingredients in them as well, and shampoos, conditioners, makeup, there's so much. And I feel that just making these switches, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's just making one switch or actually thinking, do I actually need this? So the first thing I had changed was the perfumes, and then eventually just started swapping other things out. But I know for myself, when Ciara was born, we both said to anybody that comes to see her, we don't want anyone wearing any fragrance around her, because we know after the studies and what we've seen how detrimental for little babies and children to be inhaling toxic chemicals. So many people with health conditions these days, and you look at even young
Yeah.
children, and it's so important. So
And it stays on them. They get skunked.
it so does.
You can smell it for hours after. I used to, yeah, it was horrible.
That's right. Yeah. So I think being an older parent, you are more aware of what to expose your children to. And I know, being on a vineyard, we've been here for 2 years with kangaroos and rabbits, and it's just so beautiful. We feel really blessed. And I often go for a walk off the property. So I go to
Yeah.
another little suburb not too far away, and just choosing places that have got out in nature, because Ciara has earth in her birth chart. So she's already had a birth chart done. I've got water,
Yep.
and I know how important it is for her to be in nature. So also go to a nature park with her as well, which is in Rutherford, a beautiful place called Acacia Play. And she waters the plants with her dad. So we water the garden, we feed the pigs. It's really just
Yeah.
a different way of bringing her up around nature and earth,
Yeah,
and
which
that's
kids should have. And I just want to go
exactly.
back to putting the boundaries in place that you did. That can be really challenging, especially with close family members. So, I think it's really great. And maybe it is the age and older and knowing what we want, but being able to say, no, this is my value, these are our boundaries, and having that conversation with people and being willing to lose people because of it. And people probably, I don't know, what was your experience when you had those conversations with people?
I can say it would have been a big change for some people, because yeah, even when we were in the hospital, we didn't really have any visitors to begin with. We just wanted to bond with both myself and my partner Adrian. If you go through research into the importance of the baby bonding with just the parents only, then it was challenging. And I think people understood in time,
Yeah.
but I think also it was winter time. It was just, there was so much in factor. We're sort of going down a really holistic path. We use homeopathy with Ciara as well, which has been really beautiful change to support her naturally. We use essential oils. And I feel that because it's different, people don't know enough about it. So
Yeah.
people can be quite judgmental, but you just learn, I think, to block out any noise. And I feel like I wish I had tapped into my intuition a lot, because in the beginning, I was very overwhelmed with the birth trauma, the breastfeeding issue, and just the whole change. Another thing I didn't mention is I lost my nan 2 months before Ciara was born, which I was super close to. So I was also grieving my nan. She was the only person that knew that we were having a little baby girl. So I had a lot of things going on, and I felt like I had a lot of noise in the beginning. Then I thought, you know what? I need to listen to my own intuition and not worry about what anyone else thinks. This is our journey, no one else's. And I
Absolutely.
started tapping into that more. And what I've actually done for myself, where I found like the healing has happened, I've gone back to my own yoga practice. So I'm
Yeah.
going to the yoga shed in Frankston area, and there was a couple of teachers there. that are just so beautiful. And I'm going back as a student again, and it's just so lovely because I'm reconnecting with myself. And I actually said to the teachers, I feel like I'm at home again, back in my body,
Wow.
and I'm tapping back into that yoga philosophy, and I'm, deepening my intuition. And I've noticed a massive shift since I've gone back to my yoga practice.
And that was one of my next questions. How did motherhood deepen your relationship with your intuition, which you've kind of just touched on? But has it changed the way that you guide and support others that you work with as well?
Yes. So I did a little bit of work, probably more in the beginning. They were just like pop up. I did an essential oil workshop for 20 teachers, and I also taught a couple of yoga classes. It was just quite quiet. And I feel like this all happens because your body needs to heal and
Yes.
you need to focus
Yeah.
on being a new mum. So
Enjoy the time.
I
Yeah.
what exactly the one thing that I've done, I sort of introduced it quite early on. She could have been maybe 4 or 5 months. I started doing new moon women's circles, and these have become very powerful. I've seen women coming regularly as well. What we do is we work with the essential oils, with affirmations, releasing what no longer serves us. So talking about the new moon, what that means, tapping into that energy. I have a beautiful lady called Kim who has an experience in astrology and numerology, and she talks about what each new moon means, and also journaling, so intention setting. So I think it's great to have ideas in your head, but when you're actually journaling and writing them out, it's super powerful. And then doing a guided meditation, I can see it helps me just as much as it helps the women as well, and creating that space where people can be vulnerable if they want, knowing that they're in a safe space where they can be themselves. A lot of people are coming with, having different changes popping up in their lives, maybe realizing they're not on the right path, or
Yeah.
perhaps they're in an industry where they need support and nourishing themselves. So I love creating that space. And I think the work I'm helping other people with, I'm also doing the work as well, which has been really great. And I can see that I feel a lot more grounded when turbulences come up in my life.
Yep. Handling situations differently. So, just on that, your business is Heart of the Hunter. What does that name mean to you, and what led to you focusing on helping other women, in particularly, reconnect with their own intuition and their own instincts?
So Heart of the Hunter, I actually have a big giant heart as a mascot, which my partner normally wears. It just hasn't
I've
happened
seen
in the
that.
last 10 months. And where that came from is I went and did a meditation class at a disability respite resort, and I had a lot of people with mental health issues and people that were not able to verbally speak. So they were in wheelchairs. And it was what I seen in these people after doing, I think it was a half an hour class, was phenomenal. I came out crying. I just could see how much it moved these people. And I thought, what else can I do to bring smiles to people's lives? And I thought, I'm going to get a giant mascot. And that actually came from one of my mentors from studying, a gentleman called Julian. He had a mascot for his business. And I thought, well, I'm going to have a mascot as well. I've done a lot of charity work, and I find that Hunter has done a lot of community-based work and a lot of education where I feel like the heart comes into it. So it's all heart-led work.
Yeah.
And that is my mission, is to try and help as many people as possible, to reach people, not just on a small scale, but nationally and globally. I feel, my little symbol is this. I'm sure a lot of people have known about the heart. And I think for myself now, my niche has changed. And being a new mum, I'm finding that a lot of women are coming into my life, not necessarily new mums. They could be mums that have retired.
Yep.
But it's coming back to the heart, coming back to what lights you up, what brings you joy, and what are you passionate about? What's your purpose? I'm finding these women's circles is about helping people remember what they want in life. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's changed a little bit. There's been a big shift.
So you're
Yeah.
finding that women are really disconnected from that inner knowing, their own, in my terminology, internal authority. I guess that goes with the confidence, and especially in today's economic climate, it's really unsettling, isn't it? So
It is. That's right. I feel like there's so much going on in the external world, and you can either choose to focus on that, or you can start to focus on yourself, going internally. And sometimes that work can be really hard. That's where the change needs to happen with people. The more people that do the inner work, it's going to help people around the world. It'll be a global shift.
movement.
So, and it's really hard, like, to work on yourself. You're having to take all the layers off, peel the onion, it takes time, and it's not an easy process. Always working on ourselves.
Absolutely. And so what do you see when the women start reconnecting with that inner knowing again? What's the experience that you're seeing?
Confidence, realizing that too many people have been stuck. And I think to myself, I had my coach tell me just before I turned 40, do you want to be in the same place that you are now? And I wanted to have a family, and I thought, the biological clock's ticking. I had all these things. And I thought, no, I have to make changes within myself and work on myself in order to move forward. So that internal work that they're doing of sitting with themselves in the quietness, listening to the questions with the journaling, and taking the time for themselves to go within. And with the meditation, it's super powerful. This is why I wanted to study. We have unhealthy thought patterns. We have conditioning from such a young age. And it's about changing those patterns. And when
Yeah.
you're meditating and you're in a relaxed state, you have the power to change the subconscious conditioning and negative thought patterns. So when you start tapping into that, you'll start to see positive things coming into your life. And I know I've seen it myself. Things that I didn't even think were possible have happened for me. So I think anything's possible for the individual. It's a matter of believing in yourself and doing the work to change things.
I think that gut instinct is so powerful, isn't it? For me, for so long, it was like a voice that you maybe ignored or pushed to the side. Can you recall a time that you ignored your instincts and what that particular situation taught you?
Yeah, I'll be honest. So when I was breastfeeding, we had quite a lot of noise around tongue ties. I just was so overwhelmed with people telling you, oh, you need to go to this person, and it's quite easy to go and have the tongue tie released. And we found a beautiful osteopath in Newcastle who Siora and I both been working for. And it was initially for Siora, but I didn't realize I needed that support as well with my back after having cesarean.
Yeah.
And just with the hormonal shifts and everything like that. And we ended up working to help. When Siora was born, she actually couldn't turn her head one way. So being in the
Oh,
womb,
wow.
after one session of the osteopath work, she was able to turn the head. So it's a lot of things that happen when the babies are in the belly, and not realizing that when they come out, like there's so much at stake. So it's really important. I feel like every mom should go and have support from an osteopath for the baby and also the mum as well. You're lifting, you're doing all different things. So we ended up going to a place in Sydney and having it reviewed. And prior to that, we'd been working with a beautiful osteopath, and a lady called Serena. So if anyone wants her details, I can give them to anybody. So
Absolutely. All the information we'll
oh,
put in the show notes.
yeah, definitely. So by that point, we went down to Sydney, and they're like, oh, she's actually, feeding okay, and everything seemed to be fine. They're like, I wouldn't advise to do it. So it felt like there was a lot of energy and time spent into this, where I just wish I went with my gut instinct to just not worry about all the noise around that. I think that was really stressful time. I remember one time I rang up Breastfeeding Australia, which is a free helpline as well. And I just think was so overwhelmed with the feeding. And if I had have done anything differently, I would have recommended to any women to go and have some lactation support if you're looking to breastfeed. I wish I would have done the education. I was too busy focusing on the birth. It was
Yeah.
planned to a T, but it didn't go to plan. Also, we used hypnobirthing, and
Yep.
I recommend to any women to do hypnobirthing. So also a beautiful lady called Lizzie who we worked with. She was amazing with the hypnobirthing, and I actually used the hypnobirthing in the C-section. It was just pivoted and changed and used it in a different way. So those things helped me. My advice would be to get the lactation support so you're aware of those things before you jump into them. Don't just
Yeah.
focus on the birth.
And because it's
But
not
I'm
readily
sure I'm not the
available,
only
though,
one.
is it? It's not there unless you have these specific individual wants for your experience. It's just a standard, even just with breastfeeding, it was my third child. And I didn't even think to get any sort of lactation advice. And I just said, oh, it must be just because I'm stressed. The boys fed till they were 15 months old. My daughter at 6 months, she decided she wasn't interested. And that is a whole psychological, emotional process
100%.
in itself, dealing with that.
So true. Yeah, beautiful lady called Emma I think it's Lawn. I remember going in there crying, and she's like, you've been through so much. And I just remember thinking, I'm so grateful that I've met this lady to help support us. And these practitioners that I, come in contact with, postpartum doula, Ali, like just so many lovely people that supported me. And some people probably don't even know that these people exist. So I think that's my advice to people, is just if you're wanting to do the breastfeeding. And I only breastfed to 7 months, and I had a lot of struggles with supply, and I did have to use formula, goat's milk top up as well. And I think every woman's journey is different. Also, I had the fact that I lost my nan, so I was grieving. Like 4 months into being a new mum, and one of the biggest role models in my life was gone. And going through that, being a new mum, it was quite challenging, but I just had the things in motion with the support from the Gidget Foundation, and just being patient with yourself and not putting that pressure on as well.
Absolutely. And you say you only breastfed till 7 months. I think that's amazing with the challenges that you faced. So also recognizing the wins and celebrating them, and the language around how we talk to ourselves the most. I had this health nurse that was like, you've got to put her on formula, and I was like, oh, no. When's the last time you had a child? But that's all that's on offer in the mainstream process. I don't know those services, whether they're free, maybe the cost of alternative people and speaking to other people. Maybe younger females don't have that opportunity as well. So it's a really challenging time to go through.
It is, definitely. And that's why I wanted to create the women's circles for mums, so that they can bring their babies along and bring different women, people like yourself, even coming in. So like for me, I felt like I lost my confidence there for a while, and it was, just to aim to go for a walk. I'm now introduced some circuit training. Being a PT, I've got the equipment, so I may as well use it. But I remember when you started doing your challenge, to do one thing lovely for yourself a day, and that's like, okay, I can do this. Just having that accountability of someone else. And I feel like there's a lot of women that lose themselves in the beginning, and you need a reminder sometimes, from the right person. So I'd love, when the program is up and running, to be getting different speakers to come in. Not necessarily around, having the baby, but just support for the woman to help them be the best mum possible. I think if you've got the right tools, anything's possible, and just creating a space for people to have that support.
Absolutely. So if a woman's listening and feels like she's standing on that edge of a new chapter, but really afraid to trust it, what would you want her to hear?
That everything is going to be okay, and that you've got this. You have got so much power within, and it's just a matter of remembering that. I think sometimes you can lose that confidence and vision, but it's in there. And sometimes you just need someone to remind you, the right people. So surround yourself with the right people, and you'll be okay. And even if you haven't got the people around you, you will find them eventually.
Absolutely. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Trust that instinct in any circumstance. And then the right people will sort of just come into your life. So, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing so openly with us. I think conversations like this really remind us how powerful it is when women reconnect with their instincts, especially in seasons of change and transition. All of the stuff that you've talked about, we're going to put the information in the show notes. And if you can just quickly let us know about your Women's New Moon, they're a monthly event, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I've got one coming up this Thursday, but the date changes. It just depends on the moon cycle. And I do have them directly on the new moon. You can follow my website and my Instagram and Facebook to get the latest update. I also have a course coming up at the end of March, which will be online. So I am going to do more online stuff. And that will be like a 5-week program incorporating meditation, yoga, detox education, and breath work. So you can find those details on my socials as well. And yeah, that's what I've got going.
And the beautiful oils as well.
Oh, yes,
I love using those. Yep.
Yes, they also have a deal on at the moment till this Thursday. If you do join, you get a free diffuser and 5 ml lemon oil. So if you want any more information, just let us know.
I highly recommend Young Living. They're beautiful oils. Thank you again, Lauren, and thanks for being my first guest. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Gabby. Love your work.
You. You've been listening to Thinking Out Loud for the Ignite Her Collective. If today's episode moved you, share it with a woman who's ready to reignite. Subscribe for next week's reflection, and remember, it's not about doing more, It's about doing it anchored.